This video contains major spoilers for Tears of the Kingdom and Persona 3 Reload. You've just finished an amazing game, and you sit there watching the credits. You don't know how long you've been playing this game, but you remember every moment fondly. It's been an amazing journey, but it's different from the last one. One game may end with a bang, the other, a whimper. I'm Ouroboros. Let's talk. Let's take a look at a bit of a contentious game, but in my opinion, a game that absolutely nails the ending. Tears of the Kingdom. Now, if you're like me, I was curious to dive into the depths of Hyrule Castle right after my encounter with Phantom Ganon. Yeah, I went over to Lookout Landing and talked to Purah because, that's what the game tells you to do, but my curiosity got the best of me and I foolishly delved beneath the legendary castle. I was unprepared and met with swarms of high-level enemies. As I made my way through, I was eviscerated by the swarm fight and subsequent WWE-style mech fight, which I was not ready for. Regardless, I knew I had to prepare some more. After calling upon my allies, I finally made my way to Ganondorf himself, and it's a 1v1 sword fight. Just the way it should be. Except it's toned down. You don't get the bombastic music of Twilight Princess or Wind Waker's Ganondorf fights. He doesn't throw out too many crazy attacks, but this is all just a facade. Ganon reveals his Demon King form and the health bar. It just keeps going and going and going. It being off-center is so much more intimidating than even the strongest enemies in the game. He calls upon his phantoms, but you have the sages. I know I talk about music a lot on this channel, but I'm gonna plug 8-Bit Music Theory here because he did a fantastic video on the music of this fight, so go check him out. But this all leads up to Ganondorf swallowing his secret stone. If you've played through all of the memories, you know just how important this decision is. And that's why it's even more impactful when the Light Dragon, or rather, Zelda, comes to your aid. It's so rewarding because it felt like Nintendo was acknowledging the effort I put in to see all of the game's optional story. And yeah, the Demon Dragon fight isn't very hard, it's one of those cinematic boss fights. But it fixes a major problem that its predecessor had. The fight leading up to it is actually challenging. Ganondorf is no pushover in this game. I mean, he's not a Dark Souls boss, but you can't tell me your heart rate didn't spike when you saw him dodge your attacks for the first time. And of course, we end the game how we started, with Link failing to save Zelda. Except this time he doesn't fail and the two fall from the sky to the surface, rather than the surface to the depths. This game ends with a bang. I mean, literally and metaphorically. It's the high point of the story. Everything has been leading up to the fight against Ganondorf in this game. He's seen right off the bat, and there's no question about who the final boss is going to be. He's the main focus of nearly every memory, and his presence dominates those scenes. And so, Tears of the Kingdom ends with a sense of catharsis. You've been anxiously awaiting the fight against the Demon King, and that heightened state is released only once you've caught Zelda and returned to the surface. The whole game is just one big circle, which is fitting given this channel's name. Now we get to Persona 3 Reload. I talk about Persona a lot on this channel, which, okay, yeah, I get it, I fanboy about it all the time, but you know what? This is my channel, and Persona 3 is actually my least favorite of the bunch. So here we are. In case any of you haven't played it, it's about death. Life too, but mostly death. I mean, this is a depressing game, where Tears of the Kingdom is about adventure, P3 is about memento mori. Remember, you will die. You spend the whole game fighting against monsters who eat human psyches. Each cast member must come to realize why they live and fight. At the end of your journey, once you've defeated all of the psyche-devouring shadows, you learn that you've unintentionally brought about the fall, the end of the world. It's not that all life dies, it's that all life loses the will to live. And so, you and your party wait. You wait for 3 whole months. You sit your ass down and painstakingly wait for the fall. You come to terms with what you have done. And little by little, every single member finds a reason to keep fighting. So you finally make it to the top of Tartarus, the massive tower that you've been climbing since the very beginning of the game, until you're confronted by an old friend, the Nyx Avatar, the embodiment of death. And even though you defeat the boss, it doesn't matter. The fall has already started because you cannot escape death. Beyond the beaten path that you have taken lies the absolute end. It matters not who you are. One thing is always certain. Death awaits us all. But like any cheesy anime, the protagonist uses the power of friendship to defeat death, and you and your friends go back to school. You say goodbye to some people whom you've met, many of whom do not get the happy endings that we so desperately want. And then you start to fade. Slowly but surely, you fade. Until after fulfilling the promise you made with your friends, you die. The game ends with your death. But it's not a brutal death, it's not some violent fall in combat. It's just a fade from existence, a diminuendo into the night. That's not to say it's not sad. Just because death is coming doesn't mean that it isn't sad, but that's what you chose to do. You chose to sacrifice yourself, your life, so that others may live. A game enveloped in death ends in death. It's a fizzle of an ending. It doesn't hit you with an energetic boss fight and then immediately move on to the credits. No. You watch as your consciousness slips away, all in hopes that those who come after us don't make the same mistakes of those who came before us. These are two radically different endings to two radically different games. And they fit their respective games so well. I wouldn't switch either of them for anything. And that's what I think is most important when ending any piece of media. It has to fit. It has to be tonally and thematically consistent with what has come before it. You can't have a game that is hopeless for 30 hours and then suddenly becomes happy in the last 20 minutes, and vice versa. That's not to say that I inherently prefer happy or sad endings. It's also not to say that these are the only ways to end a game. I mean, go check out my video about the ending of Nier Automata if you want to see my thoughts on the greatest ending of all time. And that's not even about the ending to the story, but just the credits. I'm getting so off topic, so I digress. As much as I love the narratives that games create, I think the endings are almost just as important as the other 90% of it. It gives everything a sense of finality. Something can't end well, it doesn't leave a lasting impact. Just look at how people only ever talk about the disastrous ending of Game of Thrones instead of the many amazing seasons that came before it. I'll leave you with one last quote that an old music teacher of mine would tell me before performances. Have a good beginning and end, and maybe they'll forget about the middle. Thanks for watching.